Sapient here. Today I'm going to review Atomfall. So this review will be an introduction to the story, some impressions on gameplay, and a review of performance on various hardware. If you think about what commonly happens with radiation in fictional stories, yeah, this is kind of an example of that and falls into some of those tropes. The story in the game is very much in that vein. Atomfall is a first-person action game set in the United Kingdom. It is inspired by, or was inspired by, the Windscale fire, which happens to be the United Kingdom's worst nuclear accident in history. It is a first-person action survival game, so you can't just go around guns a-blazing, shooting the place up. Ammo is way too scarce in this game for that sort of thing. You have to find different solutions. Oh, and fighting enemies one-on-one melee is a lot better than what I did here. A lot better. But yes, there are guns and there is ammunition, and it is first-person. Okay, so the game's system requirements are basically a 6-core processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and an Nvidia 2060 6 gigabyte version is listed here. So when you start the game, you start off with some guy coming into the room that you're in a radiation suit. He's bleeding and he's asking you questions. And it looks like some sort of government facility. From the get-go, you have to find items, collect them for your inventory, and actually craft things. The first person you meet is going to need your medical assistance. So there is that. So from the start of the game, you can craft bandages. You know how to do that, but nothing else. You'll find more recipes as you progress through the game. This one requires 1 source of alcohol and 4 cloths. There are 4 main skill types within the game, and to level them up you have to find skills manuals, and that's just one of the major things that you have to be on the lookout for when playing this game. You also have to look out for leads to find out where to go. You have to find keys and key cards and maps and different sorts of clues, and you can do this by talking to different people in the game that you can talk to. The other thing that you can do as well is trade. Whenever you talk to somebody or find a clue, such as a note or something like that, and somebody or the note gives you a lead, it will get marked on your map. Okay, so like games, most survival games or RPGs or anything of that sort, right? You have an inventory and it's your backpack. You carry things like your weapons, food, health packs, tools, scraps, stuff like that. All that's going to be here, and you do have a limit of what you can carry. You will meet various people in the game that you actually can talk to, and these people that you can talk to, it's important to glean as much information as you can and do as much trading as you can with them. And you might have to come back to them multiple times because of the trading feature in the game for new things that you need to get, say, skills or recipes or just items that you need to actually progress the game. Most of the people that you can talk to in game seem a little off, won't trust you at first, and have their own goals in mind. So I wonder, what is that iridescent swirl that's in the middle of the map, the middle of this valley that we're stuck in? So early on in the game, you find yourself in a small village, and there seems to be outlaws protecting and patrolling the area. You've got clues given to the few people that you're able to talk to within this small village or town. So you have to sneak around and try to find leads. Sometimes you're going to have to engage in combat and things like that. You can get a few supplies here and there, and that's pretty much it in this small village. And that is part of the setting of the game. This is the sort of game where if you're out in the open world like this, it's a good idea to sneak around and try to stay hidden. That way you minimize your combat encounters, limit them to one-on-one if possible. At the default difficulty level, sneaking is actually fairly easy. It's not that hard to sneak up on somebody and get a stealth kill. The more you can do that, the better, because it sets you up for one-on-one combats or no combat at all. And trust me, you don't get much ammo in this game. So early on, you've met people that are seemingly very hostile, unfriendly, sometimes trying to kill you if you get too close or go to somewhere they're protecting. And then you hear of crazy folks in masks that seem to be cultists? Yeah, more questions in this game, right? You'll definitely find other bunkers and caves and other things to enter and search. So pretty early in the game, when you're searching through bunkers and caves and such that you find, you learn to sneak around and search for clues. You don't know what could be lurking. And at some point you'll come across something that looks like a mutated zombie, and it's glowing. It looks kind of weird. You start asking questions. Okay, what happened? Where am I? What is the government covering up? And how do I get out of here? It's a fun way to start off a game. If you like fictional conspiracy theories, this game will be right up your alley. Okay, so the graphics in this game are pretty amazing, considering this game does not support hardware ray tracing. The textures are crisp, the lighting is gorgeous, and the geometry is well done. It just goes to show that rasterization can still get the job done. Game works great with Xbox controllers and is also very responsive with keyboard and mouse, and should entertain you for hours. Okay, so let's talk about performance. My main system is a Ryzen 5900X with an AMD Radeon 6950 XT as its GPU. It has 64 gigs of RAM. I use it for video editing as well, so that's why it has so much RAM. But anyway, walking around the game and getting into combat, it does average above 60 frames per second with VSync turned off at 4K. If I lock the game to 60 frames per second, turning VSync on, if I lock it to 60 frames per second, it maintains that 60 frames per second pretty well. There are a few dips and blips here and there, but they are few and far between, to be honest, or hardly noticeable. One of the things you'll notice about this game is it uses a lot of VRAM. At 4K, it used more than 15 gigabytes of video RAM, and here at 1440p, it's only about a gigabyte less. So at 1440p, performance average was between about 100 frames per second and 120 frames per second. Performance at 1080p ranges between 120 and 160 frames per second, sometimes getting above, sometimes dipping below. As you can see, VRAM usage is still between 12 and 13 gigabytes. That's insane. It seems like on, looking at first on my main system, that this game would not scale well. So this game says it requires a 6-core processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and an RTX 2060, 6 gigabyte. Now, this system that is showing footage from now does have a Ryzen 5 1600 AF, so it meets that spec. It has 32 gigs of RAM, so it meets that spec. But it has an Nvidia Quadro M4000, which is has the same number of cores as a GTX 970, but 8 gigs of VRAM and lower clock speeds. As you can see, it is definitely playable. It's between 40 and 60 frames per second, most of the time around 50, sometimes dipping below 40 and sometimes getting above 60, but it's certainly playable. So on this rig I used custom graphics detail settings. I set the textures all the way to ultra. Everything else is on low or off, and it gave pretty good performance. I thought it was a good balance between visual clarity and performance on this rig. This was at 1080p to get these types of frame rates. You could probably go to about 720p and get a lock 60 if you wanted. I also tested performance on my laptop to get an idea on a low spec system, how it would perform on this game. And it's actually playable on this type of system. Now, for reference, this laptop has an AMD 5700U, Radeon Vega 8 graphics, which is integrated graphics, and 32 gigs of RAM, so it's above spec at least on that, and the processor, but again the GPU is way below the system requirements. Now I locked the frame rate to 30 frames per second in game, just to normalize performance, and it seemed to be able to handle it pretty well. Sometimes it would dip below into the mid-20s, but it seemed to handle it well enough. It's certainly playable. On the laptop I did have to lower the resolution all the way down to 720p, but it still looks okay, and it's, well, definitely playable. After being completely blown away that this thing could actually run on Vega 8 graphics, I tried running this on a Surface Pro 6, because why not? Now that has Intel UHD 620 graphics, and this thing only had 8 gigs of RAM, and I got a DX12 error, so yeah, this thing's not going to run. Overall, Atomfall is a pretty good game. It's got enough of a story to get you hooked early, and it's about 15 to 20 hours long, or depending on how much of a completionist you are. It's definitely a survival game in which you have to be crafty and resourceful. If that kind of game interests you, then this game might be right up your alley. Like and subscribe if you like the video, and comments are always welcome.